What is happening, everybody? All right, so I've recently installed the Spohn full suspension kit for the Challengers and Chargers. Mine's a 2016 SRT. I had recently put in some BMR lower trailing arms, but a good buddy of mine hooked me up with a set of these Spohn control arms and trailing arms. So Chris, thank you very much, my friend. And the main idea with this is to replace these rubber bushings right here with a polyurethane style bushing, something that's gonna not give as much and offer less deflection under load. So at any rate, that's what these cats look like right here. That's the forward control arm. This is the rear upper control arm. And I didn't get a chance to actually do a install video, mainly, well, actually for two reasons. Firstly, I've already done an install video on lower trailing arms. I'll put a link to that in the description. Those are super easy to install, provided you've got the right tools, which in this case would be my sweet ass Harbor Freight Pittsburgh aluminum floor jack. Hey, don't knock it. You've got one of these in your garage too. Always make sure you have your jack stand underneath the cradle, and also another jack to put underneath the lower arm over here so you can raise and lower that to take the bind out of the suspension. So at any rate, getting back to it, the installation process is pretty freaking easy. I mean, it's about as simple as it gets in terms of a DIY deal for the rear upper control arms and for those trailing arms. It's the forward facing or forward upper control arm that becomes a pain in the ass. And the reason for that is, if we look in here, hopefully that shows up, where the bolt head is now from the factory is where the nut is, and where the nut is where the bolt head is from the factory. And that may not seem like it's a big deal until you realize that the body is actually in the way of pulling the nut out. So yes, you do have to cut this bolt out. Now, quick tip on that, give you an idea, these are the blades that I was using. And yes, I mean blades, multiple blades. But the idea is you're going to install this in your saw upside down. And with your rotor and your caliper removed, you're going to come in from in between here. I'm hoping you guys can see this. And you're going to cut it. You're going to back the bolt off because you can still gain access to it. 18 millimeter socket and an 18 millimeter wrench will get the job done. Back it off just enough to where you can get the blade of that saw in between the washer and the bolt head. You're going to use the washer as a shield against that tab on the cradle, and you're going to cut in an upwards motion. Do not try to cut this thing top down. The reason for that is that you will start to tear up your cradle if you try to do that. So at any rate, once you get to that point, this is going to get cut off in an upward motion. Then you can pull that bolt out. And I'll give you guys some bolt measurements and some other tips and tricks along the way. But I just wanted to get you guys up to speed as far as what I'm up to with Challenger. I want to try to quell a little bit of wheel hop and get a little bit more of a little bit more of a connected feel to this thing on the road. But in just a moment, we will be going over the tools and, again, some of the techniques that I was just talking about. So hang on just a second. All right, guys, so getting back to it, again, here are those blades that I was using. There's the first two that finally croaked, and then the final one actually in the saw there. But that's how I had that saw set up. As you guys can see. And you're only using the very tip because you can't get much of that thing in there. If you remember, it's a pretty tight fit, even with the caliper and the rotor removed. Now, getting to that bolt size, the bolt itself is, you're going to be looking for, and I don't necessarily recommend using this type of bolt, but this will give you an idea for what I'm talking about. This bolt itself is about 3 1/4 inches long in total. You're going to be taking off about 1/2 inch off the end, and that 1.75 inches That's the approximate length of that smooth part of that bolt, that, you know, that shank part right there. And the reason why I did that is I wanted to not have threads on the inside of that sleeve on the bushing. I just wanted it to be smooth. It's a little bit larger diameter, has a little bit better fit, but it is an M12 150 or M12 175. Bring one of your stock bolts just to verify, but it is for a fact an M12 size bolt. Now, in total length, again, when you do the cut, this is a little bit longer than what I actually used. The bolt that I used was really more like 2.5 inches. Not, I know that is kind of throwing things off a little bit, but there is the amount of material that I removed from that bolt. So anyway, I wanted to give you guys some tips on that. Now, obviously, rocking the old school Craftsman 18 millimeter box end. Now, this little guy right here just about saved my life on this project. That little bendy ratchet came in real handy. So being able to get that thing in there, kick it over, get that thing done. You could probably do the same with a swivel. This just made life a whole lot easier for that part of the project. So at any rate, I hope that helps you guys out. If you're looking to install that kit, it's actually really easy, provided that you've got a little bit of guidance and some patience, and you got the right saw blades and the right length of bolt and enough time on your hands to get it knocked out. So hope that helps you guys out. Post up any questions or comments below. I'm looking forward to getting you guys some driving impressions just as soon as it quits freaking raining. This is driving me nuts. Every time I do a project on my car, it rains. It's like washing it or something. Anyway, that's a wrap on this one. Adios.